Okay, and we are back for our last segment, and we're really going to transition into almost like what we just talked about, because we just talked about the fact that we tried to have the kids. First of all, we're single. Then we tried to have them be single mothers by choice. That didn't work so far. So we are then looking at, what does that mean for our corporate world experience? And for me, as I mentioned, I was thankful that it didn't work because I was able to then focus on my career. And after I read so many articles, especially recently, about DEI and diversity, equality, and inclusion, and how it is, raging all over America now. I think thanks to Black Lives Matter and
Yeah.
a lot of what happened last year. And what has your experience been in the workplace? And how does that, have you been pulled into every DEI team, to participate?
Well, funny you should ask that, because that would necessitate them having one or seeing the purpose of forming one. So
Nice.
Oh, yeah. So I'm currently unemployed as of January. The last place I worked was a huge company, software company. I was there for 7 years, and I had a lot of moral compass mismatches with this company, which started to really show to me in the last year, right? But because I was on the road all the time prior to COVID, I was very independent. So, I was barely in the office. At the most, I was in the office 1 out of 4 weeks. So I really loved my job because I could travel. I was working by myself. And I really liked what I did. But in terms of the company and, their values and what have you, did not match up with mine. So I knew even before 2020 that this was not going to be my forever staying place.
Right.
Right. But last year really brought that to light. When we were grounded we weren't able to do our jobs the way that we had anymore. We had very little support in transitioning into teaching online, right? It was a really frustrating year. And then everything happened in May, June 2020. And, they were one of those companies that put out a very meaningless statement with no donation attached, which made me very angry. And I just was not seeing any change from management, which was really
was it just around the diversity? What was the main issue?
Yeah, I worked in property management in that industry for 20 years, right? So I was working for a software company who supports property managers.
Okay.
And it's a very sexist industry, but I feel like everyone can say that. But really, it's a lot of just white men up in middle management, upper management. So even though there were a lot, I think that in the States, this company operates very differently. But the office that we had here was, same, like very white male heavy at the top. They didn't really value women. Women would always leave. Women of color always felt held back from management, not heard and not valued. And I ended up getting very sick last year as well as a result of how I was being treated. And that wasn't anything I've always had anxiety, but I just never had a diagnosis for it. So
right.
Yeah, so I did go to the doctor last year and have that diagnosis given, and so I do have ways that I'm better coping with it now. But for sure, I knew I had to leave.
Yeah, that was the turning point.
That was
Yeah, and I think that and it's so funny you say that because my challenge, I really haven't had challenges per se, but I've always loved working. I loved whatever job I had. I put 110% into it, but my body just didn't like it.
Yeah.
My body couldn't handle the stress. I didn't think it was stress because I was always like, go, 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 I love it.
Yeah.
And I would be working, of course, because you're single, because you have no one to go, no
You're
children to
right.
go home to, you're working, turning on the lights in the morning in the office and you're turning them off
Absolutely.
at night, right? And everybody else goes home to their families and you're the one that's still there because you love the work, but you just want to get a bit more done while it's quiet, So yeah, same thing. And I think I was lucky enough that I was recognized for that work. But at the end of the day, like when I moved over to the US corporate office, I saw less of us there, less of us in leadership, but still opportunity to do great work and get financial compensation for that work,
right,
but not necessarily title for that work.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I had always believed in was that anybody who wants title will work and scrape and fight for title. I wanted to make sure, again, I wasn't working for the money, but if I did good work, you're going to pay me. And I'm going to make sure I get that bonus or I get, a good bump up, so to speak. But yeah, I think after I moved to New York and I had my one stint at the company that brought me here, I decided I'm branching out. I'm starting my own consulting company and making myself president. So she president. So I don't need your
Awesome.
waiting for someone to give me a title per se. But it's something that it takes a lot of courage to branch out and say, you know what, I want to do this. I want to do it my way. I want to make X amount of dollars because here's what I have to show for it, and create a reputation for yourself that supersedes just the call of your name, so that people go, oh my God, Renee, yes, totally know her, great, she did work for me in XYZ, and you're able to sustain yourself that way.
And you can now choose the clients that you have, right? Which
is
huge.
That was the biggest part, because again, the work that I do change management consulting, and I love the work. But again, depending on the company that people would find me on LinkedIn, and I was lucky enough to be able to pick and choose which industry I wanted to work with, because certain industries are more formal. They don't really allow a lot of creativity, and you and I are creative bugs, and we want to be able to do things out of the box and try things new. And if there's an industry that is a little bit more in the box, I know I wouldn't be a good fit. So I like the creativity of being able to the ability to choose who I want to work for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think working for myself is a goal for myself that I have in the next few years. I'm still open to working for somewhere that I feel I can make a difference with, and that is just not where I was at.
Right.
And certain people valued me, like my team members valued me, what have you. But also as a woman of color, if you speak out, it's always you speaking out and your neck on the line, and the white women are not doing that for you, right? I'm just gonna say that. And so although all of us were having the same experience in terms of being belittled and what have you, none of them really took it upon themselves to speak out as well, right?
Right. That's too bad.
Yeah, and I do see so many companies that are really trying to do things in a really proactive way, but it's at the same time now DEI is like a hot topic, right?
Yeah.
So everyone needs to create a position, fill the position, but they're still a lot of the time having it under HR when it's not an HR thing, right? The skills are not equal to being in HR. And also there's not a lot of formal education to get into the field, right? Which is, I am interested in getting to DEI myself. So it's tough to even be considered for those jobs now too, right? Because there's no way to have experience unless you just are able to get in and try to do it, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And I also see that companies, a lot of times they are just, putting people of color into positions that maybe they wouldn't have been in before, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But that does not fulfill what DEI actually is.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was funny. It was funny after Black Lives Matter really exploded, again, not taking away from any of my brothers and sisters who are qualified and have established careers, but LinkedIn, every other day it was somebody being promoted to a role like that, or being promoted to a role. So it was like, oh no, quickly put Black people in roles, let us show that, prove that we have an inclusion, we've been checked the inclusion box or the diversity box, so it was. And again, I don't want to be across the board because that isn't everybody, but it just so happened that the timing was that.
Right. Yeah. On the other hand, it's great that everyone is who is interested in doing this work will have the opportunity to do so if they try to, right?
Exactly.
So I've been loving being on LinkedIn and getting to interact with people having these conversations on LinkedIn, which is great now too, because LinkedIn is really now being used as an actual social media site, right? You don't feel like you have to hold back what you want to say, right? Of course, I'm not going to speak the way that I would speak on Twitter or something, but people are having these conversations between white people and BIPOC people like we would have on Facebook or Twitter, what have you, on LinkedIn, which is wonderful because people can actually see now this is what's needed in the corporate environment. It's not something to be scared of. It's not a bad word, right? Being told that you hold racist views is all of us that are not Black have anti-Black views. That's just the bottom line, right? So to see that all of that's happening on LinkedIn is really, it's encouraging, right? Especially for those of us who've tried to get this through at the places we were working before, and have been rebuffed for it.
Well, I hope my prayers are with you for figuring out what it is that you want to do and being able to establish that business of your own.
Yes.
Any info you want, I can share.
Thank you.
Because it's wonderful. But again, it's at the right time, right? So I definitely respect the timing of it. It's almost like having it as a side gig, and a side gig turns into your full time.
Yes.
To be able to do that, and elevating other women of color, where you have the opportunity. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and my goal is, I really do think that Black women and Indigenous women should hold these titles first before the rest of us do. So my goal is really to support someone else in their work who already has been trying to establish themselves doing this. So we'll see how it goes. And in the meantime, I am taking advantage of learning anywhere I can. And I am still looking for a new field, right? A new field to work in, doing I do something similar to you with change management, but it's really with implementing new technology. And my background is in accounting. So luckily there are a lot of other great accounting softwares.
We have the same background. Finance,
accounting. So and that's the thing. And one of my friends who is an accountant, and she now works for a firm that are doing a lot of acquisitions, she always says, everyone needs an accountant. And I think that's true. Everyone does need an accountant. So it's a good field. I like it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Miss T, thank you. We came in with a bang. Thank you.
Yeah, Renee. Thank you.
My first guest, share your experiences, your vulnerability, and your truth. Thank you so much. Do you want to tell people how they can find you, or if they want to continue?
Absolutely. So I'm Trisha D Dayal everywhere. So on Instagram and Twitter, I'm Trisha D Dayal, or just Trisha Dayal on LinkedIn.
And I'll put it in the notes too of the.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. Thank you, Trisha.
You're welcome.
Good
Yay.
show. Woo. Thank you. You heard. Well, okay, that is our first show. I hope something you heard today either enhanced your perspective or just made you smile. We'd love to have you come back, so please subscribe to Spotlight. And don't forget to like the video and share the episode with, friends and family. It's been my pleasure spending this time with you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time here, where? On Spotlight.